They're the leader that led from behind and supported everything on the team. So, that's changed my opinion of what makes a good team, because this guy had a lot of research he puts into it. And I know that we're all, basketball, stars and fans. And he talked about how Tim was very, he didn't want to be in the limelight. He didn't make speeches. You know what I mean? He just led by the collective good of the team. You know what I mean? And, apparently that team, maybe had like 10 or more championships in a row. So for the entrepreneurs or the business people that are listening, if you're trying to hire somebody, they're saying, look for the person that's shy. Look for the person that don't want to talk about themselves all the time. Look for the person that's uncomfortable with praise, right? The person that's just does it. And, don't want anything for themselves. They want the collective good.
Okay, so what should we look for in a team? Well, I'll give you a specific example. In 2002, we were awarded, my company, a contract by the United States State Department and the Department of Defense. And that was to provide humanitarian assistance to other countries. And so in doing that, this was the Department of Defense, this was the State Department. I really knew not very much about either one of those agencies. So the first thing I did is I found someone who knew. So one of my really key partners was a retired military colonel. And so I was not afraid to allow him to take the lead. If you feel like you're the one that's got to do all the leading, then something is definitely wrong. So I was able to know that it was in good hands, monitor it, but sit back and allow him to help me with this project. And to find 15 consultants with different expertise, from firefighters to healthcare people and epidemiologists and people with HIV expert, to go to these countries and assess basically the needs in these different countries, because some of the areas were considered to be security risks. And so we wanted to make sure that we were looking at issues in that country, because ultimately it could threaten the United States. And so looking for experts who are not necessarily the smartest in the bunch, but who really has a lot of passion. You want people with passion and, who are able to, regardless of what comes through, they're able to keep pushing through. Not necessarily the smartest, but sometimes the people with the most passion. So you really have to look, and we wanted people who were culturally, who could, weren't afraid to embrace other cultures, realize that our culture is what it is, but there are lots of different cultures, and it doesn't mean that they're bad or they're just different from us, and that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean that they don't know what they're doing or what they're talking about. So we wanted someone who really were able to embrace cultural differences that we would encounter. So we were able to, in that manner, by using that approach, finding the right people and putting them in the right places to execute a very good project that received national recognition.
I think this is one of the staples to any business, and even working with organizations and different things that people can get involved in. Whenever I try to create a team that I'm working in, I have two instances, one with the business engineering and then two with PT2. So I try to bring people to the table who know more than me. That's the first thing. And then I try to take my ego out of it. And I look at the different areas that we need people, like an intern coordinator, we need all these different positions that we have. And I try to find those type of people who have expressed to me that that's their interest. But I try to look at every aspect of my business and every aspect of a committee that I'm working on, and I try to reach out to those type of people to meet that need instead of me trying to do everything and solve every problem. And so I would say, as a business, definitely you want people around the table to know more than you. And so I was always told, if you're the smartest person in the room, you need to get up and leave.
so true. So true. I think we would solve a lot of our world issues if we could simply apply that. Is that we need to have, there's nothing wrong with having like minds, but there needs to be a different mind that knows a little bit more. Right. I agree with you on that. Now, there used to be a phrase that was used when I was a teenager, the pulse of the community. That is not a phrase that I hear very often anymore. So my question to you is the phrase still relevant today?
It's kind of hard to say that, and I say that because I think all people need to establish a village within a community, especially if they're not from there. But definitely, your village needs to be established. But just as that gentleman stated at the end, that it used to be more community, but now people are more concerned with their four and no more. Mm-hmm. And so when you start talking about the pulse, it's not that it doesn't exist. I just don't think it exists community-wise. I think it's more of individual circles of influence.
Mm-hmm. Well, all our communities are very different, and I think it varies between communities. Every community has something that makes them unique as a community. And we don't have to all be the same. Every community doesn't have to be the same. And I like the fact that we have different communities that do different things and are known for different things. I mean, there are places that I go that I know if I go here, I know I've got to have this kind of food. And or places where I go, or I know I've got to do this when I go to that community. I think the diversity in our community is what makes us better, what makes us stronger, and not something necessarily specific, but something that really, that we can sort of go to that community and know that, this is a community and there are great people that live here and they do great things here, but they're all very diverse and they may have different neighborhoods that they live in, but somehow they can work together regardless of how diverse they are. So I don't know if there's any one thing that I could say, but just a variety of things that just make us unique.
Mm-hmm. The pulse of the community, is this phrase relevant today? I researched that. It says that the pulse of any group or society means that you have common opinions, ideas, or feelings that at a particular time, like the pulse, when you check the pulse of your body, it's right now. It's not in the future and the past, it's the pulse. So to give an example of that, we could say that the White House insists that the president is in touch with the pulse of the Black community. And the Black community would say that the White House does not have any clue about the pulse of the Black community. So, that's the type of pulse we're taking on. We can talk about the pulse of what's going on with the gun violence, because that's the pulse. We can talk about the pulse of our youth. That's the pulse. Because what you're saying is that if we were to check your blood right now, or the pulse, that's what is beating, right? It's the beating heart of it. So yes, it's still relevant today, even though not discussed.
I believe it is still relevant. Why? Because you can't do nothing without a pulse in a community. It's the heartbeat of each community. And when we go into different communities, like my community when I was coming up was the Harlem Heights Hellcats. But we go down across the branch, it would be Henderson All-Stars. But we all came together as one. We respect that community when we went in their community. Because everybody got a community that got that pub. And they recognize that even in games, that's their community. That's their pub. It's sad to say, but sometimes they stick together more than what we do. Because that's how a lot of gangs is snatching our children because they feel community. And they want that. because sometimes, sad to say, they don't feel accepted in the home because they want to get away and do their own thing. But sometimes we go, it's funny, sometimes we can pour all into our children what we want them to do, but yet still we want them to have their own independence, their own ideals, especially as they get older, to the teenagers, like from my daughters and my sons. They're all grown now. But the thing is, though, they still need to come back to me because I'm the, you the growth of the community, of their community. We have to always give credit and recognize each community. We have to respect that.
That's true. That's true. That's very true. So kind of in that same vein, if you will, but taking maybe a little bit of a twist, the question is, what rules should we be breaking? I think as a community, we have been taught to stay in your lane, to know your place. How dare you be uppity or bougie or want to be free, right? So my question then is, again, is there a rule that we need to break? If so, what rule do we need to break? Or another way of asking it may be, how do we change this mindset so that we can get to this freedom that we know that we as a community should have and can have?
Say cleanliness is the next thing that God is. Do what you fear. Break the change touches. Breaking all the change, Tasha Carl say. You got to learn to break the change and do what you want to do as a community. As long as there, again, where there's unity, there's strength. And with there's strength, there's a movement. As long as you know everybody is on the same page. Because you cannot go against the grain. But you got to remember, even in that community, there always a Judas. Going back, telling people, the other people, what we're doing in our community. Get that Judas out the camp and be exposed as a community and keep it moving. And you'll be stronger as a community as you grow.
Thank you.
I love this question. Of course, it's my sweet spot. We're talking about mindset. So yeah, I love it. I would say that we need to break the lid on the box. We are all put in boxes and we put lids on it. And one of my favorite sayings is, you are the lid, right? As you grow, you don't have somebody put you in a box. We heard the saying, think outside the box. I was just meditating on Deepak Chopra and Oprah Winfrey, and Deepak was talking about how we put labels on everything. We're fat, we're thin, we're ugly, we're cute, we're a giver, we're a taker. You know what I mean? We're a winner, we're a loser. So whenever you label yourself, then you put a lid. So in order to be successful, you got to break out of that lid. And I read a lot about this. You need to keep growing. And I don't have a lid. I need to keep growing. And I just read Richard Branson's book called The Virgin Way. And you want a role model for somebody that doesn't have a lid? That man has 26 different companies that he created. As soon as he's mastered one thing, he says, okay, let's do something else, and people say to him, are you crazy? That's never been done before. And he says, I want to do it. You know what I mean? Now he's got the money to do it, but he has 26 different brands under the Virgin label, from airlines to banks to records, different things that he just says, I want to do that. Somebody is not doing it right, and I want to do it. And that was where we were talking about lids. Everything is possible. No lids.
I like that. Thank you.
say, you know, there's an old saying that if it's not broken, don't fix it, you know, let's not worry about it, that kind of thing. Well, I like to stir things up. I'm a mixer, a blender, so to speak. And so when you look at a situation, there's always ways for improving things and making it better, making our communities better, making our lives better. So I don't think we should get stuck in a mindset that, well, you know, everything's working okay. So then we kind of stop being creative, we stop thinking, we stop doing things, because one day you'll wake up and you'll say, well, you know, we've lost, like IBM, lost market share because they stopped being creative, or many other businesses that really stopped, you know, re-engineering and stopped really that creativity. And you start to lose ground, you start to lose market share, and before you know it, you've lost out and someone else has gone past you. And I think in some respects, the United States as a whole has really done a lot of that with other countries, especially in engineering and technology. Many of them, STEM programs, have really gained ground on some of our schools, and our young people have really lost ground because we stopped that creativity and learning and really excelling in our community. So let's stir it up. Let's keep making it better. Let's blend it and see how it works. So, you know, I think we should all really think more about doing that.
When I think about changing the rules, I think you gotta understand the rules first, so you can know what you need to change. You don't know how much you don't know because you don't know what you don't know. So in order for us to change the rules, we gotta know how to play the game. And I think that's what happens a lot of the times. We try to make sure some rules, as they say, black people march and white people write. We gotta learn how to write our own rules. We're the creator, the originators. So we have the authority to write our own rules, but we also have to understand the rules within our climate so we can know how to change the rules.
I like that answer. Good job. I know, listeners, I have an awesome panel. I know. Yes. This is good stuff. I know there's a nugget for everyone to take away. My next question to you is this. We have a tendency to, and I think we've all touched on, is that we talk about the things that have happened in the past. We have a tendency to compare, and we kind of get stuck in the, well, this is how we used to do it, it worked back then, and we need to do something that's not only going to meet us where we are, but also take us into the future. So my next question for you is kind of twofold again. So I'm going to ask each one of you, take a minute or so to answer. What do we need to do today to meet the future head on?
So when I think about our needs for today in terms of the future, we have to be the Sankofa bird. We have to understand our past in order to move forward. Not try to redo our past, but understand our past and so that we can move forward. So I think we need to be the Sankofa bird, but also it kind of interlocks with the rules of the game. You have to understand the rules of the game or be willing to rewrite.
The second part of that question is, what will happen if we do absolutely nothing?
We'll go dormant. We'll go dormant. We will be a lost society. We will become complacent as we have, and that's just not the African American community, that's the United States as a whole. We slept on this last election. We slept on, our thought process of who we thought would win. We underestimated the power of the vote. Our vote is our voice. So as a community, as a nation, if we don't do something, we will go dormant and die.
Thank you. Juanita, what do we need to do today in order to meet our future head on?
We all have to be involved. It's not going to happen from the top down, as you can see what is happening now in our country. It has to start at a grassroots level. That's what happened in the 60s. It wasn't just what Lyndon Johnson did in terms of the Voting Rights Act and the war on poverty, but it was really people, getting to the streets, people marching, people becoming involved, understanding there's power in numbers, and that when we come together, things start to happen. We put pressure on our leaders to really understand why they're in office. They're not just in office to take up space. They're in office because they need to be representing the constituency. And I just love what the sister said in terms of, we slept in the last election. People didn't think that their vote matters, and now they know. And just recently in Virginia, in the last election, one vote made the difference in someone losing in that election. So that one vote. And so our voice really matters, and we have to take it seriously, that we have to be the change that we want to see.
Part B of that is, what if we do nothing at all? What happens?
We can see what happens. Right. The worst can happen. We're at a very a transitional point right now. We're sort of at an intersection in our country where we're starting to see the shift. We see what happened and how our country moved in the last election, but I think people are becoming more conscious now that they really do have to do something. They just can't sit back, because if you do sit back, you're going to see the authorities, you're going to see things changing in our country, and it's not going to be good. Programs that we used to see, especially social programs like Social Security and many other programs, are going to be affected and impacted because there are people that don't wish good for a lot of the programs that we have in our country. And our healthcare system, the same thing. We gain ground and then we lose it because of people that some people have put into office. So I think we have to wake up and know that we are the difference, and we make the difference that we need in our countries when we become more involved in the process.
Thank you. Myrna, I ask you, what do we need to do today in order to meet the future head on?
Well, I'm going to have an answer that is a mindset answer, because that's my space. And I believe hope. When the devil takes hope from you, you feel downtrodden. You don't look for the future. You are just concentrating in your misery right now. So in order for people to prosper and look to the future, I believe that they have to have hope. The Bible says, or God says, I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you and give you hope. And they have to believe that. I believe that. That is one of my foundational scriptures. That, you've got to believe that there's better. You've got to believe that if you're going through hell on earth right now, that there's heaven, right? That there's something that's going to happen. You're going to wake up in the morning and you're going to look for it, right? You're not going to feel that, hey, your day is going to go the same way. It's called mindset, it's called law of attraction, and it's just basically hope.
Jeremiah 29.
That's right.
My life scripture. Yes. I love it. Yes. And for those who have been to an occasion and I have a moment or two to share, my godmother gave me a card that had that on it. Just very simple. She didn't realize what she was doing. I don't even remember what the occasion was. It could have been a just because or my birthday. But what I remember about that day was that scripture on that card. And when I shared that one day, she's like, I didn't even realize I'd done that. It was like, it wasn't, you did what you were supposed to do. You walked in your purpose for that moment, and it didn't have to be your memory because it changed my life. So thank you for doing what you were supposed to do when you were supposed to do it. I love it. So part B of that question is, what if we do nothing at all? What happens?
Nothing. No action, no change. It's a verb. You got to do something. If you want to get out of where you are right now, you don't sit around. There is no saying that says, somebody is looking for a husband, or somebody is looking for a job, or somebody is looking for something, and they just sit and wait for it to come. No. you wait for it to come. No, you've got to go ahead and do something. You've got to change. Action changes the trajectory of your life. So,
Thank you. Ernest,
Yes, ma'am.
what do we need to do today in order to meet our future head on?
Well, I truly believe what we need to do today is participate. Talking loud, saying nothing. We got a lot of people that talk loud, but they don't do nothing at all. And when it come down to doing something, you can't find that person that talking the most. If we could just, all the people that talk loud, that actually can get involved and do something, it will make an impact. Because I truly believe, I don't know why we get on this election thing, but I truly believe if we would have got out in the masses and did what we said we were going to do, because I believe on my show one time, we had a pastor from Miami, very prominent, strong pastor. And we believe that a lot of black folks went behind that curtain, said they were going to vote for one, but they vote for the other. Because they felt that he would make a difference. But they didn't follow their heart. And a lot of them did not vote at all. But they said they was going to vote, but they say no. How many Martin Luther King and Rosa Parks and Emmett Till and all these people marched and died for us to vote, and they didn't even exercise. I truly believe when people start realizing what power they have just by voting. The young people who coming up these days, we're going to make a difference next 2020.
I love it because, as you said, they really are making a difference. If we pay attention to what they're saying, we hear it in their voice, but we also see it in their action. And one of you said we need to do the action. They are registering to vote. They are not waiting for their parents to take them. They are doing it in their schools, and they're also having the opportunity to sign up to vote when they have the marches, when they do the town halls. And I think it's awesome. I think that is awesome that many of them have listened to those of us who are trying to be the change, who are trying to make a change, and they are really and truly making a difference. So part B of that question, Ernest, please, and that is, what if we do nothing at all? What happens then?
You know, back in the day, my mother used to write the Reverend Acts. I don't know who most of y'all know who Reverend Act was. I know Mama. Reverend Act was a preacher out of New York City. He was sitting out the Red Cross, the prayer cross. And me and this guy was having this discussion. He said, my wife always sending Reverend Act my money. He said, I'm going to write Reverend Act. He said he wrote Reverend Act. He said, Reverend Act, I need money to help pay my house bill, to pay my light bill. Reverend Act wrote him back and said to him, my dear brother, but nothing for nothing, leave nothing. That means if you don't do nothing, ain't nothing gonna be done. You have to do something.
We have to do something. I think that is a wonderful way to end this. Panelists, you guys have been absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
Absolutely awesome. When folks say that we, black folks, don't produce anything, we know that is a lie. Because I have 4 very, very awesome panelists right here today. Thank you so much for participating. I hope that everyone has enjoyed empowering the community for excellence, and this particular panel discussion has been on the collective consciousness, taking care of the village. Thank you so much for taking care of the village.